Do you know what would really help? If I unmuted my microphone. What a start to this stream. So, hello and welcome back to DragonBorn Industries, and I'll start all of that again. This is the brick from Games Art by Philipp. This is a Kickstarter that's coming up on the 19th of this month, so this Sunday I believe it launches. Phil and Angie, if you guys are in the chat, then feel free to correct me on anything that I might get wrong. Feel free to answer any questions that people might have about the Kickstarter, about the print, about the different bits we can get. But I will re-go through everything I've just been through. They had a previous Kickstarter called the Universal Shuttle Type G. This was this particular ship, which is a bit too large for the camera. But I will zoom out later on and I will show you this particular model. It was a joy to print and fantastic to paint. But it's not as modular as the brick. The brick is designed to be expandable. So this bit here is the base version of it. This is the very minimalistic of the print. However, with the stretch goals and add-ons that I've seen so far that's going to be coming out with it, you can add to it and make it as long as you possibly want to make it a whole dungeon on its own. You can make it a large freighter, a cargo ship, a drop ship, and there are loads of different stretch goals and add-ons that are going to be released as the Kickstarter goes forward. I've been painting this up now for about a day and a half. I started day before yesterday, and we've been live streaming that as we go along. But this particular stream I will probably put up on YouTube, and I'm also going to record a video tomorrow going through a review of the print and the paint itself. But for now, any questions about the print and painting, stick them in the chat. Any questions about the Kickstarter, stick them in the chat. And yeah, if the sound levels are too much, too little, not on at all, do let me know, and I will try and keep an eye on chat and adjust them accordingly. So far, what we've done is we've gone through a few layers of blue. We started with a Cantor blue, and then we did an ultramarine blue, and then I've gone around this afternoon and added all of the edging on some of these bits here so that we can see those details starting to pop out. And that was with a wolf grey. We've gone and added some Towlight Ochre Orange. That's one of my favourite oranges. And we layered that up starting with an Oak Brown. Then we went into a Jokaro Orange. And then the final strokes were that Towlight Ochre. Going up through the metalwork, we started with a gunmetal from the Army Painter, which is the same as Lead Belcher, basically, if you only know your Citadel range. I then used a plate mail metal and then finished off with some Necron compound. Inside, I've been working on the details as well. So, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Hopefully, you guys will be able to pick some of this up. But all of those details have come out wonderful in the print. That is supposed to happen, and I'll show you why in a bit. So, all of these like little vents and grates and all of these hazard lines, the maneuver drives here at the back, which is over that way on the camera. And then we've got this console at the front here where the pilot would sit. Now, there is a chair to go with that console, but I've magnetised it instead of using the open lock clips because I want to be able to take that in and out and have character minis go in there should they want to pilot the vessel. There are also modular walls and different rooms that you can add to it, and these are all like this, and they all slot into the actual model itself. So it's all been perfectly designed to have those walls go in set places, and you can change those all up as you see fit. But I'm going to cover that more in the review. This is going to be me finishing off the paintwork because I want to weather this now, and I want to get some lighting put in there as well. One of the add-ons that I know that we're getting with the Kickstarter is going to be a light add-on, basically. So areas have been given an expanse or a gap where you can fit one of these tea lights, which we all know and love, the very basic one of those. And they all fit relatively, in fact, I'll zoom back out again for this. There we go. Behind the thrusters. So these bits can come off if you're doing the light add-on, and they would fit in there, and then you put the thrusters back on over the top. And that's all well and good, and I really like that they're made for this, because these are accessible for so many others. We can all get hold of these from Poundlands and from our local stores, hobby shops, but I like to go a little bit extra. So I have been doing a very, very basic circuit. This is quite literally a disc battery, which is a CR2032, and an LED. Positive to positive, negative to negative, and you've got a circuit. It's all you need for an LED. Just to make sure it fits on there, I'm gonna, a little bit of masking tape, a little bit of painter's tape. And the only other thing we've done is we put some cling film within the thruster itself, and that is to try and refract the light a bit so it makes it go out some more. And all we have to do is pop that in there like so, and put the cover back on, and you've got engine glow without having to do OSL paintwork. And because we've done some of the metallic works in there, it should hopefully catch all of those lights. What's happening in chat there? Hey, Bigfoot Pete, how you doing? Yeah, she is a beauty of a ship. Like I said, I previously backed that Universal Shuttle Type G, and I really, really enjoyed that. Let's try and get this actual LED to stay alight in the right place. But this one, I know that a few of my players are in chat right now. I already had need for a cargo vessel. For no reason, guys, I promise. However, when Games Art announced that this one was going to be their next Kickstarter, and then for them to say, you know, if I could take part in the test printing, was an absolute joy, because, guys, if you're watching this, you are going to be seeing this on the table. And for those of you who don't know, the gaming group that I currently play with, we are looking to hopefully start streaming a Starfinder campaign pretty soon. But we're not going to announce anything until we finalise some more things. But for now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep adding those lights to the batteries. And you don't even have to do one. You can quite literally put 2 on one. You've got 2 lights, 1 battery, very basic circuit. There's a reason I've done that. The final bit, which is in this particular grill just here, I am going, I've already put some cling film in that one. I'm going to put that one so it's sticking down there. Now, the reason I said that this bit moves is because this is the outside of the engine. This is the cover. It's got those open lock clips on there so we can just slot it in. And we have interior engine glow. And because we've used the LEDs and we've got cling film in all of those bits, it should diffuse those, or refract the light enough that we get a large glow. So that is how I'm going to be doing those bits. The rest of the painting, however, I need to beat the shit out of this now. Which is always painful, but it's a process that needs to be done. Because let's face it, space freighters are not usually this clean unless they're brand new, and we don't want it to be clean. So I'm going to go in first with my... This is Necromancer Cloak. This is a grey from the Army Painter, and it's like a dirty kind of mucky look, and it's really quite good if you sporadically apply it with a sponge. I've clearly not used it in a while. Gonna need quite a bit. Right. Yes, Philip from Games Art. Yeah, we've got the crumpled cling film in there to kind of diffuse that light and to spread it around a bit more. It was your idea that actually got me to do that. I think it was when you said it to me previously. That was what we did. So, to start beating the crap out of this, I've just got some of my Necromancer Cloak in one of my dirty pallets, and I've got some foam. This is just upholstery foam that I've ripped a bit off. I'm going to dab it in there, and then I'm going to just wipe some of that off, actually. It's basically like dry brushing. So I'm going to grab me some tissue. I'm just going to take some of that off. Now, I'm going to put the lid back on for this, so the roof, and I'm going to attack the front before anything else. So that is going to be most of the areas that we see the starship go through first. And this is just a random hit of this dirt, basically. And what we're going to do after that is go in and pick out some of the bigger ones and add in some plate mail metal from the Army Painter, and that will give us some deeper scratches, like it's gone through the paintwork. Might do some heavier corners up the top. But we'll see. So I do believe, if you haven't seen the Universal Shuttle Type G, the previous model, you can get it on my Mini Factory. And Angie and Philip, if you do want to stick the link to that in the chat, you absolutely can. I don't know if you've got your your page for the Kickstarter that's launching on Sunday for the brick ready to be shared, but if you do want to stick that in chat, feel free as well. I'm very happy for you to stick anything that you need to into the chat. So once more, I'm just going to attack those corners where the starship would be going through debris first, I guess, or any kind of like stellar materials. I want to hit some of those top edges, especially up here near the thrusters, where, oh, it's higher up. Oh, there you go. There's the Kickstarter link. So for those of you who haven't yet checked this out or not yet seen it or not seen any of the streams, please do go click on that link. Go check out what's going to be going on and see what happens when we launch. Well, when they launch and when I back for the rest of the add-ons and stretch goals. What I've seen so far of the stretch goals is amazing. So some of the cargo ones that I've actually managed to print so far are incredible, and I've got a few of them here. So there are ones where you have cargo boxes and a full interior, extra storage rooms, and that will add length to the ship itself. And things like cisterns and canisters as well. So you can vastly change what kind of cargo you have this thing hauling. Or you could have it as part of, you know, a Red Dwarf style larger ship where it's got so many different unique bits to it that it makes it interesting for players to look at. Or interesting for them to explore. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's, there's some other bits as well that I've not quite finished putting together yet or finished printing. So one of them is some weapon upgrades. And I know that Games Art Philipp have been working with Second Dynasty, and Second Dynasty are another company who make models, and a lot of them are starship models. I have a lot of their terrain already, which I know some of my players have already seen, and I use a lot of their sci-fi dungeon tiles. However, they also do some ships. Now, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but this ship here, this green one, that's their scout ship Beta. I've got that one, and I've also got their Alpha Shuttle. What they have got on both of those are moving turrets. And I know that Second Dynasty have allowed Games Art by Philipp to use their turret system, so there are going to be moving turrets that you can add to the brick. Which is pretty cool. I mean, having a bit that your players can spin around and go, oh, I'm shooting that way, or, you know, X, Y, and Z is nice. And I think that having those little extra bits on the things that we print that move is really cool. And I know as somebody who has 3D printed many different things, it's always those bits that go a little bit further, those models that have the extra effort put in that I really do love to see finished. And moving turrets is one of them. There are also these wings here. They're going to be lasers and also missiles that you can replace on those, and some other bits that you can do there. I also know, because Angie said it in the chat last night, was there is going to be a 6" by 6", so double length cargo bay with ramps and doors, which I'm really excited for, because that's what I imagine being on the side of a cargo ship. And once again, FYI for my players, what you're going to see on this particular model, whenever that hits the table. Hey, Warrior Prince, no need to say sorry. Just happy to have you along for the ride. Yeah, Games Art Philipp, I really, really, really like Second Dynasty. I've had their stuff for a while, and yeah, it's interesting because I spend so much time prioritising my Dungeons and Dragons game and printing as much as I can for that. It's been hard to get time on the printer to do things for an upcoming Starfinder game, and you giving me access to this gave me more time to push forward with that. But I know that like any time that I've had no real necessity to print D&D stuff, I've been printing all the Second Dynasty stuff that I've collected over the past year or so. So if you guys haven't checked out Ben and Second Dynasty, please do. They do some amazing starships. So hopefully you'll be able to start seeing that we're picking out some areas where we're adding some darker corners, and we're going to be adding some weathering too. I'm just going to go around the back end of the ship, and I'm going to do some more around there, because I think the back end would be a lot more grimy, especially the undersides and just on the inside of the thrusters there. I also know that one of the things I am most excited about is a tactical size mini. I didn't know they were going to do this, and I, the other day, decided to fuse the STLs for this together and resin print a smaller version. And I showed it to Philip via Discord. This is the miniature version that I printed out. But they're actually going to do one on a little 1-inch flight stand, and they are going to have that as part of the add-ons or stretch goals, I believe, which is mind-blowing because that's what we need as GMs for Starfinder. We can add things to our tactical maps because obviously, like, unlike D&D where we play just on 1-inch grid, Starfinder and I believe Traveller also have starship combat down at 1-inch scale, which obviously is vastly different to regular miniature combat. So it's nice to have something where you can explore this with your miniatures, and then you can play a starship game with a miniature of the ship that you're in. I love that, and I think that that is something that is exciting to me. I very much like having things like that to play with. I certainly know it brings a storytelling level to the games that I play and run that gives me excitement, which hopefully transfers through to the players. Because I think when the GM or the DM is excited, the players can become a lot more immersed and excited as well. And we do all like a good story when we're playing these games. So having any kind of extras like those miniatures for starship combat, which I know takes such a beating online. A lot of people are like, no, it's awful. I really like it. As somebody who used to play X-Wing miniatures, it's a very similar system to that. And yeah, I find it does flow really well if you really stick at it, and I love it. So it's nice to have a miniature for something at that scale. Oh, I didn't realise it was my idea. I thought you were just coincidental. Aw, thanks. Right, so we've got the majority of the top bits done with the Necromancer cloak. Now, what I've done underneath is I've attacked this already pretty heavily with a lot of Necron compound, and I've tried to put like some landing scratches on there, maybe from a bad landing, and I've also put in a lot more kind of scratches and sporadic kind of elements to the underside, because we really want this to be dark and grimy, and once I start airbrushing it, they're going to look a bit different. I'm also going to add some rust to this ship, so we're going to do that with one of the paints that I've got over here, which should be our Army Painter Rust. You think I'd have that prepared. So this is dry rust from the Army Painter. It's an effect paint, but I like to mix it between two different things. I have this, and then I use the airbrush, and I use sepia usually over the top of it to give it that transparency and darkness in certain areas. So what I'm going to do is add quite a bit of that to that palette. Also going to take more of the Necromancer cloak, because we're going to add this to the bottom as well. Because I really want the bottom to be dirty. I really want it to look like this thing has landed on different systems, on different space stations, planets, other starships, capital ships. I want that grime underneath. You can also see I've left this particular foot blank, and I'll show you why in a bit. But the other ones, they've just been hit up with that Necron compound. And for now, I'm just going to hit all of this up, again sporadically, with that sponge with the Necromancer cloak. I'm going to pay attention to try and not get those big scratch lines that I put in. And I'm just going to try and go around those so that they stand out a little bit more. So, this foot here, what I did basically for the rest of it, and I will show you why I left it blank, is just so I can show you how I am going to be weathering up with rust and stuff. So first thing is I'm taking quite a heavy amount of Necron compound, and I'm quite literally stabbing it onto there. That is straight down onto it. But because this is the underside of the ship where it lands, when we get to the edges, we're doing a dry brush against those print layer lines and just catching the undersides of all of those details. And that should hopefully give us a look of it being scratched every time it comes into land. So we have that bit there, and that's obviously quite shiny. We're then going to go back in with our Necron compound, dull off some of those areas. Then, with the same sponge that's got the Necron compound, we're going into our rust. I'm going to take a little bit of that off, and you should have quite a heavy amount on there. I'm going to start light on things like corners, and it's going to look very orange to begin with. We want to keep it as sporadic as possible, and then when it comes to the edges, we're going to try and create some streak lines by going in the direction that we want the rust to go. No, Warrior Prince 3D, I didn't resin print it. This is all FDM, so this was, well, some of it was resin printed, but I'll go to those bits in a minute. So the majority of the hull, the feet, the roof, everything there, and all the thrusters, they were all printed on my Anycubic Viper. So this is an FDM printed model. It was mostly all printed at 0.2 mil. So usually if I want higher detail, I would go for a 0.16 or even higher detail 0.12. For those of you who know about FDM printing, you'll know the reasons. But layman's terms is, the thinner the layer, the better the detail and the less layer lines you get. Obviously, with resin printing, we see a lot less of those layer lines as it is, especially once we've cured a model and we've got rid of things like supports and stuff. Now, the trick to getting rid of those layer lines is to sand a model, but you don't need to. When it comes to painting, if you are going to dry brush, you want to go with the lines. So, I will try and show you with the roof actually, because it's the easiest one for me to show you with, because that's what we've been doing all along. And if you caught any of the previous streams, you should see that. Let's zoom in a bit, so hopefully you might be able to see these lines. These are all printed this way. All the layer lines are going from what would be the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. Every one of those is printed at 0.2 mil, which is really quite thick. But what I did is to get, once I primed it in black, I then took a really large dry brush, and I should show you on that camera actually. I quite literally, with the Cantor blue, I went across it backwards and forwards, following those lines. What that does is it allows the bristles to go between the layer lines, and where the rule of thumb for dry brushing a mini normally is you paint down and it catches those top lines, with an FDM printed model, if you go with the lines, with quite a wet dry brush, all of those lines will be blended in with the topmost. And it's only when we start getting to the highlights and to the third layer that you really need to start looking at edge work. So actually it's really easy to print and paint, which is awesome. What I did do in resin was the headlights, which are just here, and so let's zoom back out again. So we've got the headlights which are here and here. They were done in resin because I really like the idea of those being a lot smoother because they'd be more metallic. And then once again with this particular model, or part of the model, the console, so all of the raised bit of the console was done in FDM, but the chairs and the computers and the pilot controls, which if I can get in on that one, was all done in resin because I really wanted those screens and the foot pedals and the hand controls and all of the little buttons that we've got on here to really show through. And for me, that was one of the reasons I did those bits in resin. And I can do all the little greebles and things like the door, because there is a door to the outside that slots in just there. So you can have a little fun with your players, locking doors and closing them and letting them spend 4 hours trying to work out how to open it. Because that's what a tabletop game is. Nothing but a closed door. However, the rest of it, including the maneuver drives, were all FDM printed. The only things I did at the 0.16 were the maneuver drives, because they have a few more details on them. And I went through and I painted those all up earlier, and that was on a previous stream, so I wanted to get a lot of the details done so we could crack on with the weathering. However, we are back underneath. I'm just going to lessen off some of the ones on that corner, and we're also then going to go in and hit up these corners in here where hopefully, I'll say hopefully, where moisture would mostly collect. I'm probably going to leave the headlights as they are, which is, zooming out, these bits just here. I'm going to leave those as chrome because I wanted that particular area and the front nose plate, which there is an add-on for a nose plate gun. I want those bits to be like the Mandalorian Beskar, kind of, that really kind of like finished chrome. Who doesn't like the Mandalorian? If anybody puts their hands up and says me, you can leave. I'm kidding. Stick around. But we're going to add what looks like a very bright amount of orange to this. But you'll see what's going to happen when we add the airbrush to it. Catch those back bits there. Hopefully the underside will start looking a lot more battered and weathered than the top side. As I said in previous streams, I really want to go heavier on the underside. So, that should be that bit. Let's add some to those scratch lines, actually. There we go. Then let's go in across the top and the sides. So again, I don't want as much as I've done on the underside, but I do want to bring up some on these feet and these corners. One of the additional add-ons that you can get for this when the Kickstarter launches are alternate feet. And I've printed some of those already, but I'm going to wait until I've done the video tomorrow to show you to them. What they are, they extend outwards from the model and they add a completely different look to it, which, again, I very much like. So I'm looking forward to showing you those ones. But for now, I haven't got those painted up. So I'll be working on that, I'm sure, until the early hours of the morning. But for this stream tonight, I'm going to finish off the base model. So how long is the Kickstarter going to run for, Angie and Philip? Do you know how long it's going to... is it going to be a short one? Is it going to be a long one? Because I know that people like Steamforged Games, obviously, they run like 7 days. I imagine that you guys like the last one are going to run for a bit longer than that. 29 days, apparently. That's awesome. Hopefully, I can get a lot more done with the extras in that time. So I'm just adding some little patches to the front, but not that many. And to the top. I just want it to be dirtier underneath, you know? So. That is about as far as we're going to go with the orange. And while I'm waiting for that to just dry up a little bit before I hit it with the airbrush, I am going to have a quick look inside and make sure there's nowhere that I've missed. Because once we start going in with the airbrush, it's going to be hard to tidy up afterwards. So I was saying that on previous streams as well. There are all these areas, like even inside the walls, we have things like pipes all recessed in here. All of these areas connect to walls. We've got all of these like small panels. All the floors are extraordinarily detailed. There is not one bit of space on this that's been left blank. They are all fantastic bits to look at, and every time I've been painting, I've been finding something new. But one of the best things that I like, and that I found Philipp has done, not only with this model, but he did it with the Universal Shuttle Type G, was the interior walls. A lot of 3D prints, when they're modular, they have a roof that goes on, and it's a very flat bit there, and there's usually like a little pyramid or a nodule of a spherical half sphere that connects it to the top. We see that a lot with the houses, with D&D terrain. But what they've done here is they've been really clever with all of these wall bits where you can attach the modular walls. These protrude up past and go into the underside of the roof, which also has panels and stuff on it. It's not been left flat and blank. It's been given that detail, which I like that touch. But inside the wall, we also have pipe work. So instead of that being left flat, we have all of those there, which hopefully you can see I've done in red and yellow, that run through it. So it's touches like that that I find add that level of immersion to as for GMs and for players, because when you look at a model and miniatures on a table, it's all good that you're like, yeah, okay, there's my character and I'm going to run over here and do that. But I think you can lose a bit of the immersion when you just see a bit of flat plastic that's maybe got some dry brushing on it and no real details. So to have this area here where it's got details that would be on the inside of a wall of a spaceship or a cargo ship or inside a vehicle of some kind is a nice little touch to keep that little elements of the story going. And it's not necessarily that we're going to use those for storytelling, but they're there for the eye's pleasure, and we like that aesthetic. So thank you for that. It's one of my favourite things about this. Things like the little vents and grates all down at the bottom on the floors as well. I like the small details. It's been a joy to find them all as I've been going along painting this up. So, in terms of the inside, I don't think I've missed any of the excess panels that I want to paint up. The maneuver drives are where I want them to be, and minus putting in those modular walls, I'm pretty happy with that where that is. So I am going to go in, I'm going to start adding in the airbrush. But I am going to take the lights out for that for now, because I don't need to spray up the LEDs really. But being the open lock system, that means that we can go in there and we can take things apart. For those of you that don't know, I've mentioned this a few times in the past streams. Open lock is a system where we have holes and clips. These are double-sided clips. Those of you who've seen Warlock tiles are a lot like that, but these were out first. They're just like that. They slot into there, and that joins piece A to piece B. It's a very universal system that's used across 3D printing, and it's nice to have those here again, because a lot of the things, like Second Dynasty, that I've already got access to, I might be able to start mixing things in. I know there are certainly computers and consoles that I really like that Ben's done that I'm going to use as scatter pieces or as different walls, and it's nice to have that with this, that we can add those in. Even bits like on the Universal Shuttle Type G, there are clip holes in the floor like there are just here on the cockpit for the pilot's console, where you can add in chairs which all have them underneath as well. But I tend to magnetize the chairs so I can take them out. But different consoles, different computers can all be put in different places. Maybe it's an automated cargo ship and it's just a console that's there. All different things that can be done just with those open lock clips. So let's make sure that we've got all of those out. I'm going to take the cling film out of that one. And then I'm going to put the thrusters back on, but without the lights in. Because what I want to do is make sure that we get everywhere that we need to with the shading that we're about to do with the airbrush. Normally, I would wear a mask when I'm using the airbrush, but for the sake of the stream and for the sake of you guys hearing me, I won't be doing tonight. But I'm in quite a big room, so I should be okay. And I've had the doors and windows open, so we should be all good. Otherwise, though, you should play it safe. Right. We have an airbrush. What I'm going to be using here, this isn't ink. This is the Dale Rowney Hobbycraft ink. It's, when used for an airbrush, it goes on quite thin, and it's really great for shading. I've got some airbrush thinner in there as well. That's the Vallejo airbrush thinner. It's my go-to thinner for that one. So, I know I already have paint all over my fingers, but I'm going to put some gloves on for this as well because I find getting the airbrush ones off is a lot harder. Whoop. Dropping the glove. So, Phil and Angie, are you guys looking... I know that originally you were looking at doing miniatures along with this Kickstarter, and I don't think you are now, but in future Kickstarters, are you going to be looking at miniatures as well? 28 to 32 mil. So I'm just going to go in now, and I'm going to be going into especially the darker corners and around the bases of things like the engines. I'm just adding a little bit of that black just to add some shadows. Once this is all done as well tomorrow, I'm going to be taking some glamour shots of this and putting those up on my socials, which, if you don't already follow, that is at the DragonBorn Bard is the one I mostly use for my miniature painting and for my other personal things that I get on with. And we've got at DragonBorn Industries, which is the channels page for my dice making, for anything like this, any of the streams. And yeah, if you want to give those a follow, feel free. But I'm pretty sure most of you that are in chat probably already do. As for Games Art by Philipp, they also have the socials. Guys, if you want to stick in your apps there, feel free. But I'm pretty sure in most places it's at games_art_by_Philipp. I believe, is it not? Okay, so I'm going in with the subtlety around the edges here, but now what I want to do is where the door is and the airlock opens, I want to start hitting up the area with a bit more so it looks like it's been well trodden. And anywhere that would have heavy footfall, we're also going to give it a bit more on the airbrush. So that'll be the steps here, and it'll also be that airlock there, and possibly where the manoeuvre drives are, where any engineer would be. But this isn't the only colour that we're going to be going in with on this area. We're also going to be doing a sepia, which is a brown, to add those bits of dirt in there. Well, long may they rest. It's nice to be getting the tactical miniatures though of the ship. That wins for me in comparison to minis. Just want to get some of the corners on this cargo area. And then I'm going to start working down the outside. So with the actual door itself, I'm going to go into the corners with the black. That should add some shadow. And then I'm going to spray upwards towards the door so we're catching the underside of those steps. Yeah, I think a non-humanoid crew would be amazing. And I think games like Starfinder do have so many races. Like, you can find 3-armed snail people with 4 legs, or, you know, plasmoids and stuff like that that are just amazing. And I absolutely love systems and sci-fi for things like that. I know that we, like, get a lot from fantasy games like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. And, you know, the name DragonBorn, I adore that race, and that's why I go by that handle. But yeah, I think with the sci-fi ones, we can really get, like, wacky and cool, and we can, like, think outside of carbon-based life, and we can get to, like, silicon-based life, and yeah, it makes a huge difference to, like, how things look. So, we're now going to come back to the underside, where we've got all of that rust work. Where the silver still is, I'm going to hit that with the black, just to add a bit of depth and dirt to those. And then the rest of this is going to be hit with the sepia. You get those inside lines just there. Again, just where those shadows are going to be, where it's going to be a little bit darker, we're going to add the black first. And we can't forget to do the nose plate. So for the nose plate itself, which has got these lines on it, I really want those to stay quite bright. So I'm going to come at it 90 degrees from underneath and hope that it only catches the very bottoms of those. And I'm only spraying a slight amount, very minimalistic. Don't need to go too far with it. Oh, that's already in work, is it? That's awesome. Well, I look forward to the next Kickstarter then. So I'm going to get just underneath this nose plate, I'm going to go a bit heavier on the black, just to give it that shade and that grime underneath. We're just doing short controlled bursts because we don't want to spray liquid everywhere. So now we're going to add, this is the sepia. So this is a dark kind of brown, but it goes on really transparent. And what you're going to see, hopefully, is that rust effect, that paint from the army painter is going to darken up and start blending into those blues. And that's what we're after, really. So, the underside is going to take quite a heavy amount because I really want it to be grimy. I'm going to add some thinner to that, and I'm going to backwash it. So, just to mix it, I'm putting my finger over the end, pressing down and then pulling back. And that allows the thinner and the ink to mix. I've not washed between the two either because they're both dark colours, but what I am going to do is just blow out the last of that black until I see that sepia coming through, which we now have. So, Hopefully you guys will be able to catch this on this camera. Obviously we can see all of the orange areas here. As soon as we start adding in the brown, they're going to start darkening off. And those feet, we can really go to town on them. Because we want that to be where they land. We want the dirt on there. So I'm not too scared about going too far on the underside of the ship. Hopefully. We'll go on there. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but my Twitch seems to have frozen on the computer there. Am I still connected? Am I still live? Let's see how we're doing. You guys haven't responded. Oh, cool. So some of you got me back, yeah? If not, I'll restart the stream and then we'll see how that goes. I don't know what's happened there. Oh, are you still okay, Philip, are you? Okay, for those of you who can still hear me and can still see, I am going to stop the stream just for a minute. I'm going to just close down my OBS. I'm going to restart it, and then hopefully we will be back in a second. So, oh, there's some of you still here. Grumplin, you still got me. Yeah, I'm going to close it down and I'm going to restart it. So, I'll be back in 1 minute. hopefully we should be back live. So let's find out if we're still going. Let me know if you're back up and everything is running. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. Let me know if that's any better. Some of you were saying that you could still see me. Some of you were saying you couldn't. Awesome. No, it's live. It's, let's see how we're doing. So, Bigfoot, you can hear me. Games Art, you can hear me. Is everybody else back in, and can you all hear me and see me? Well, for now, I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to see how we get on. I don't know what's happening in terms of the stream. My internet should be absolutely fine. Cool. Well, Games Art, I will crack on then. So, this point here, I'm going to be going underneath all of those feet again, and we're going to be just hitting the underside of a lot of these panels with this sepia. And that should darken off those oranges. You should see, like, under there now, it's looking a lot more subtle and a lot more grimy. And I don't spill my ink everywhere. Let's go around to the other side. And I want the top of this ship to be a lot cleaner than the bottom of the ship. But the sepia is going to do a lot of the work for the wear and tear. Right, so we've got those bits there. We're now going to put the roof back on for the time being, just to finish off those bits there, and then we're going to go around and start hitting it up with some of the lead belcher or the plate mail. I really want to get into these areas here. So something that I picked out on an earlier stream, where there are all these little vents and all of these little areas of metal that were hiding from me that I hadn't really noticed until I got to painting and getting into the details. And I really liked the idea of getting those to look grimy, like it's got functionality to it. And we're just hitting up with a little bit, we're not going too far, just enough to change some of those silvers. Just enough to make them dirty. And then on the steps, I'm just going to apply a small amount. And what's nice about the brown on the blue, whereas the black would take away a lot of the colour, some of that blue still shows through. And we can get a nice mix of different things going on. Right, and once more we're going to go inside. We've got our sepia still in there. I'm going to mostly be going to where people will be walking or a lot of footfall would happen. So that is the inside of the airlock. So just in here where those areas are. You can see that I'm adding in quite a bit of grime on top of that yellow plate. Some on the vents, where people walk up to the cockpit chair, and just in front of the cockpit stand. So we have just some subtle shading there. Again, the engineering section, I imagine that would be quite dirty. So we're going to add that sepia to those areas. And in those corners, we're going to darken those up as well. Where the feet are for the pedals, I'm going to go in and do those. Just on the corners at the top here of the drive. That is those bits all there. So we should have now quite a bit of blending going on with the airbrush to really make those rusts blend in. And then the top side should be a lot cleaner with just a little bit of wear. But now what we need to do is go around and we need to add in some metallics to the scratches. So things like these corners here at the front, I've made sure that I went round there with some rust and with the Necromancer cloak. And that's because I want those areas to be like much of the paintwork has been scratched away. So I'm going to add some plate mail metal. This is the Army Painter's plate mail metal to that palette there. I'm going to take a clean bit of sponge, and this one's got a bit of a sharper edge to it. So you can see it on that camera up there. It's more triangular, because what I'm going to try and do is stick to some of these lines. So bits like these corners here, these have got like lovely directional lines on them. But I also need to add some more finite scratch work. Hopefully, you should start seeing that coming through on those lines where debris and maybe a collision would be hitting. I'm not going to go too far over anything that hasn't been hit with that Necromancer cloak. I just want to keep it inside of those areas. I'm going to do this corner a lot heavier than this corner, because I like to change it up. I like it to look different. Certain areas we can dab it on. So what's good about some of the finer points is we can add more direction or more precision to what we're doing. But I'm just trying to stay within the lines of that Necromancer cloak. So it looks like there's a deeper scratch in those areas. Right. These bits here, so the thrusters have got these lovely lines on them that I went around and I picked out a lot of the top bits with some of the wolf grey. But I also want to add some damage to those as well. So I want to try and just get some inside the middle of those areas of the Necromancer cloak. Almost directional in a way. Like something's come across the top end of the thruster. Just as subtle as that. And same again across some of that orange. across some of the top of these. And again, we're going to take a lot of the excess on the corners. Just add little dabs here and there, like chips of paintwork have come off. Oh, too much. I'm going to do a hand rub. We went too far. There we go. To Bob Ross. Don't worry, we'll add a little tree there. But I can't do that with this one. Although saying that, there are Xeno ships with Starfinder that do have things like trees and plant life on them. There we go, we've got all of those ones just there. All across the top there. We're just adding little tiny bits, little speckles of silver, the plate mail there, just to kind of add some very minor paint scratches and chip damage. That's probably as far as we'll go with the roof. Time to go around the sides. So once more, especially with the feet, I'm going to go quite heavy on those corners. I'm going to try and do some blending with my fingers. But we want those edges and those bits of rust to really have some of that shinier metalwork poking through. I really like the idea of having the insides of the feet work here, where they would probably compress and move, being quite scratched up. So I'm going to do that. And as we work our way up the ship, I'm going to lessen off that damage. All of those bottom edges, though, I'm going to go quite heavy on. So are there any sneak peeks, Philip, for the next Kickstarter? What kind of ship it's going to be, or what kind of things we can expect? I know we're looking quite far ahead already if we're talking about the next Kickstarter, but if I don't ask, I don't get. So hopefully you should see a lot of the silver coming through on that bit as well. And I'm going to come up the other side. I'm still on that pointed bit of foam that we can add direction and a bit more precision with. in the center of those stairs where people walk. A battleship. So are we talking like a big gun platform for annihilating planets, or are we going further than that and going for a system killer, or are we going to go for smaller fighters? Oh, cool. With 2 floors and large commando section. Nice. Well, I think you have a backer here. Definitely, I'm always happy to print more starships. Oh, cool. So with like broadsiding, so you can like go in and like just turn and face, and you can get, although they don't move, kind of like the large cannons on the clone ships, the destroyers that they use, and the dreadnoughts, where it's just like massive batteries of artillery fire. That'll be badass. Oh, and 99% compatible with the parts for the brick. Nice. That's awesome. I can't remember if I've already asked you or not, or if it's doable, or if it's something for the next one that's compatible, that we can do something that expands the brick out to give us a larger cargo area, but then come back in towards the back end, so that it gives us those fatter bodies to have like a wider play area. Is that something that I've already asked you? I can't remember. Oh, and earlier platforms too. So I'm pretty happy with how the weathering's going. The sponge effect is working quite well, and I'm probably going to not go too much further with this, because I want to focus now on some more detail for the front. So I think that that's the bit that really stands out on this ship, is this grilled area, this kind of stripe that goes around. I really like that design, and I like that we can add different colours to it. But things like the scratches that I'm going to do here at the front, I really want to kind of add a bit more depth to those with a brush. So I'm going to focus on those bits there. Oh, nice! So the plan is to hopefully, like, between the Universal Shuttle Type G, the brick, and then whatever the battle platform is that you bring out next, is to be able to mix and match different parts from it. That's very cool. That's... Oh, I'm going to make some weird shit. So could you, like, have larger capital ship designs that could come from that? So, like, you could have, like, big corridors and corners that you could create that would then almost be like dungeon tiles, in the sense that you could then have them going around corners, and you could create a table that is the interior of a starship. Or is it going to be more a case that, like, you would take the brick and you would then take another bit from another bit? Yeah. That's cool. That'd be very cool if that's the case. Hagley, how long did it take to print? It's a very good question. It's one of the reasons that I printed it in 0.2mm layer heights. I loaded up the plate as much as I could, because the Viper has its own auto leveler built in as standard, and I think that each one was anywhere between 300 and 500 grams of plastic, so PLA plus, and I used the eSun plus because I really like how that prints. And I, with that grammage and the 0.2, I think each individual print that I set out was around anywhere from a day, and to the most bits was 2 days. And with all the bits in total, I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's all of these undersides as well, which are all individual bits. I think it took me about 5 days to print the base model and some extras. So things like, you know, these cargo rooms that I showed you earlier, you know, they were all put on with some extras and some of the open lock clips. So that would have been, I think, this room and half of the other room with some open lock clips were about a day. So about 25 hours worth of printing per one. Obviously, with certain bits, I turned on the ironing, and that made it go for a couple more extra hours. And they were certain bits like this particular section and this particular section, because I wanted to print those in a different orientation to side on, because I wanted to see how they printed differently. So some of them I printed on their sides this way up, so that I would have a lot of the detail really show through. In fact, actually, I can show you. Let's take that bit off there. So this particular one was printed orientated that way, so that all of these layer lines would show all of the details, and that's really smooth. And I wouldn't need to worry about ironing, and the only bit that would be there is this top section. And you can see there I turned the ironing off on this particular bit, and I'll see if I can zoom in so you can see those there. Because where the lines don't matter are the bits where the open lock bits join. So it didn't matter if I had the ironing off for those. Now, what did happen, and I learned very quickly, and I had to message Philip, was that I forgot to support these bits. So inside here, there are little bits that hang down, and they just need a quick support that you can do in Cure or whatever slice you're doing. And I didn't do that because I wanted to see if it would print without supports. And those bits there did need some supports. And that's fine. That was on me. I didn't check it properly. But the rest of it printed fine. But I wanted to see how it was on the floor with the ironing on and to check my settings more than anything. So if you can see in there, the section here and here are done with ironing on, and these bits were printed on their side. And to be honest, now that it's painted up, you really can't tell the difference. Unless you're heavily into 3D printing and you know the difference, that is negligible, really. Yes, Games Art by Philipp. Yeah, about a week. I believe that's how long it took me as well. I did a few extras, but I think it was about 5 or 6 days for the base model and some extras. So, how are we getting on here? I'm going to take some of that plate mail metal. Not with that brush, though. I want a thinner brush than that. So, we've got all of these bits here that I've done with the directional scratches. And I'm just going to go in with the plate mail. I'm just going to add some to the middle of those. Just on the outside bits of where those lines are, but also not going outside of that darker necromancer cloak that we put on. So I want those to be the edges of the scratches, and I want the silver bits to be the most in-depth bits. Some of the bits we're just going to dab on a little bit excessively. And some bits we're going to do nice and thin. I'm going to put the roof back on there. I'm going to get some of those areas where we've got some corners. Just get things like those little corners there all painted up. So my Twitch stream apparently is frozen again on the computer. Can you guys still see and hear me? I'm going to assume that I've completely frozen on the rest of you, since there are no replies in chat. Do let me know if you can hear me or see me, or if I don't get a response, I'll restart OBS once again. Because I think, for some reason, my internet is playing up. If you can still hear me, all I'm doing is going in. I'm just finishing off some of those final touches on some of the wear, some of the scratches. And I reckon it will probably be about done. I'm going to re-enter the LEDs and have those all going again. Now if I am frozen, then I guess you can catch up on YouTube, as this video should be going up. Again, let me know if you can hear or see me. I don't know why my internet is being like this. It shouldn't be. I should have very good internet. I might do. Stop faffing about with that bit and put it in flat. So gravity isn't working against me, because that would be the smart thing to do, right? And then I can use that to my advantage. So we're going to put the LEDs back in. Hope you guys get to see the final look before we take some glamour shots and stick this up on Instagram. And once more, if you can hear and see me, I can't see the chat now. It doesn't seem to be coming through for me. But if you can, then hopefully I'm still about. But I'm just going to put this together now with some of that LED love back in there. And then I'm going to go question why the internet is doing this to me. So I'm quite literally just ripping up the cling film and putting that in there. And then we're going to add those LEDs. Yeah, it's leaking and freezing as well, or lagging and freezing, isn't it? I will have to work on that. But we have the majority of it done, and the recording will be going up. But we have the LEDs back in place. We have, with our door, one finished, well, table ready at least, brick. So yeah, let me know what you think of it. I'm just going to put into the chat that I will probably close off the stream. And then we'll crack on from there. So, in fact, actually, I'll say goodbye to you now on YouTube, because this video is going up on YouTube, and then I will chat to people in the chat afterwards. So thank you for coming along and watching the painting, or the final painting session of this. This obviously goes live on Sunday for me now, so that's the 19th, and that's Game Art by Philipp. This is going to run for 29 days, and it is going to be one hell of a ship. All the add-ons, all the extras are amazing. Hopefully, you all go check it out, and you all go check out their previous Kickstarter, and I can't wait to see the next one. But for now, thank you for tuning into DragonBorn Industries. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon.